Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay.
There you go. Welcome to Crime Vlog Weekly. How you doing? My name is Hartley. Welcome. The crime of the century. This is Jennifer McCabe, very good friend, supposedly, of Karen Reed. She's been given evidence. Bringing you up to date. For those of you who haven't actually been following this case or know much about it, we're now calling it the crime of the century. One of the reasons being, and this is just one reason, it's like Karen Reed versus police, family, and friends, all at 34 Fairmead. That's the name of the road over there in Canton, Massachusetts. It's a very confusing trial, but Karen Reed is absolutely suffering at the moment. She has got a lot of support, I must say. Definitely a lot of support. She's claiming she's been framed, she's been set up, and she's being lied on. This is what she's saying. The jury's in now. There have been many pre-trials before deciding the judge deciding which evidence to bring in, whatnot, and so forth. So this has been going on now for nearly 2 years and approximately 2 years and 2 months, I think now. So we're finally up to day 16 and 17. The prosecution has actually accused Karen Reed of reversing her SUV on a night where she was angry with her boyfriend, reversing her SUV 22.5 miles an hour, smashing him into him and leaving him in the blizzard, snowy morning on the 29th of January. They're claiming she drove off, went home, left him there to die. Of course, she denies that. That was what the prosecution said she did. She says no. She said she's claiming she left the venue they were at. She left with her boyfriend, approached to the house of O'Brien. That's a police officer who owns that particular house. His name is Brian. He he was there. He was also at the bar that night. I think he invited everyone that was there back to his home for after party as such. Karen Reed said she wasn't feeling too well, so she wanted to go home, but her boyfriend John wanted to go, so she decided she's going to drop him off at the home. She didn't know where the house was, so eventually she was given directions. I think she had directions from two different people how to get there. And this is very important as you're hearing further evidence coming up later. But she eventually found a house, dropped off her boyfriend. This is what Karen is saying. She dropped her boyfriend off and he went into the house. And that was the last time she saw him until until she realized at 5 o'clock in the morning he didn't arrive back home. So what she's saying, she panicked, called her friends, called a couple of people she knew who was at the particular party, and then she met up with them and they went searching for John. Eventually they found John, but he was unresponsive, lying on the front yard of Brian's house. As I said, Brian, he's the owner of that particular house. So it's a very strange case. Lots and lots of things is happening. Also, there were on that night in the particular house, there were 11 to 12 people on in that house on that night, and the party seemed to have finished up around about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and some stayed, and some actually left on their way to home before the blizzard got worse. The key thing is, no one saw a body or any person lying in the snow on that early morning of the 29th. He had dark clothes on. This obviously the snow was white. No one spotted him. Of course, they were drinking. That could have been a reason why no one saw him lying on the front yard at sometime between we have to say sometime between 1:15 and 2 o'clock in the morning. No one saw him. Everyone in the house is also claiming that John O'Keefe never entered the house. They are swearing, they made statements. They eventually made statements. I have to say eventually because it took a long while before statements was taken from the witnesses in the house. But eventually everyone made a statement. As I said, there were quite a few pre-trials before this one now, so everyone eventually made a statement, even though some of the statements was taken about a year and a half later. So there's been a lot of sloppy police investigation on this particular case. Once again, I do have to say not Jennifer, I should say, Karen Reed denies that she was the cause of the death of her boyfriend on that night. As she says, she dropped him off. She wasn't feeling too well. She decided to go home. She drove home. And yes, there is video which shows that she did arrive back home sometime, I think, before 2 in the morning. And she was alone. This was all seen on CCTV. And it, then again, there was also CCTV that showed her leaving in the morning to go to look for him. And so that's all proven so far. For those of you who've been watching this case, I know a lot of you are wondering, why is this case actually in court? Because it looks most definitely that she's not guilty. But you never know. You never know. You absolutely never know. It's totally down to the jury. But so far, the prosecution hasn't brought in no evidence that definitely looks like Karen Reed is guilty. There is one of four main witnesses within this case which I think is going to decide the fate of Karen Reed. The one we're looking at there on the screen, her name is Jennifer McCalb. She was at the bar the night from the 28th of January, also the 29th. She is the sister-in-law of the homeowner. As I said, the homeowner is a police officer, Boston police officer. And she has lots to say. And I must say the defense has been having quite a cross-examining with her, because she's a very important witness. She's been conspiring with many of the others. It looks like she's been asking them, or gathering them all together, I should say, and making sure that everyone get their story straight. It looks like there's something been going on in the house. I hope I'm not spoiling it for you, but it looks like something has been going on in the house sometime between 12:05 a.m. and 2 a.m. in that morning. Looks like something happened. We don't know. We're trying to get all the evidence on all the testimony, and we probably got another 6 weeks of it, of hearing all the testimony, and then we'll get close to really what happened in the house. There is a judge, her name is Calooney, I think it's Beverly Calooney, reading a lot of the social media, um, reading a lot of the social media across the internet. Many people are not happy with the way she's judging this because they're saying that the judge is biased. There, at the start of the trial, there was question mark whether or not she was close. She's close to a lot of those policemen and the law officers and people within that that small town. They did ask her to excuse herself from the case, but obviously she has refused. She's still in charge of the case. But so far, 90%, I can even say myself, 99%, it looks like she's more for the prosecution than she is for the defense. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing, or whether she's got tactics, what she's trying to prove, or what she wants the jury to see. But even though it seems like she's biased, the prosecution still hasn't come up with anything real positive to say, well, Karen Reed is guilty. So today I'm going to give you quite a few clips of which will bring you guys up to date. I would dearly love you guys to ask any questions in the comment section. Also, before we get into it, please subscribe and like and share. By liking and pressing the like button, it helps the algorithm to help our videos to spread worldwide, let's put it that way. We're currently trying to get up to at least somewhere between 20 and 50,000 subscribers. We would definitely like your help in that. So we're going to get on with the crime of the century, the Karen Reed murder trial. My point on it, doesn't seem like a murder trial where she's going to be guilty, but you never know. As I said, there could be a bombshell evidence still yet to come out that we haven't heard as yet.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay. And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Correct. I was.
2.5 years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used?
Okay, as I said earlier, it's a very, very confusing case. As I said, it's like Karen Reed versus the policemen and their family, all to do with this house, and something happened between 12 midnight and 2 a.m. in the morning. There's a situation where a phone call, as you've just seen, phone call was made, and the Google search was asking about a body. How long does it take for a body to more or less freeze on a cold morning like that? Somewhere along those lines. Doesn't look good for the prosecution. Definitely not. So each and every time a witness comes up who is supposed to be giving evidence against Karen Reed, the defense lawyers seem to be one step ahead, and they have to fight for survival, not to let their negative information come into play. This is supposed to be a murder case against Karen Reed. We haven't heard no evidence yet. All it has been is the witnesses all seem to be covering up. All of them seem to have a very similar story. We're hoping to get a breakthrough sooner or later on was the cover up between 10 past 12 midnight and 2 a.m. in the morning. This is a little bit, I'm going to give you a little bit more of the spot on cross questioning by Alan Jackson from Los Angeles. He's here on the East Coast here of Boston, Massachusetts, doing a great job for Karen Reed. So if you stick with me, here we go.
Concerning statement, I hit him. You gave a statement on January 29th to Sergeant Light. Called him over to specifically give him a statement, correct?
Correct.
Gave a statement the next day, later that day, to Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday, with a trooper named Prince, correct?
Correct.
And then you testified in April of 2022, no fewer than 12 times about statements that you attributed to Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And in not one of those instances, not one, is there a report that says you said, she said, I hit it, correct?
Correct. Although I told Mike Lank.
Oh, we already know that the officers all got it wrong.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to that. Next question, please, Mr. Jackson.
So you indicate that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment that you just described, started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
That was around the time that there were public hearings concerning this Google search, is that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Is that right?
I'm not sure exactly when the Google search came out.
But you do know that you started suffering this harassment that you've claimed is awful and terrible, etc., around April of 2023. Is that right?
I didn't claim it's awful. It is awful.
Okay, I'm sure it is awful, Ms. McCabe. I'm sure it's terrible.
It
I'm
is.
sure it sucks to be harassed.
It really does.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, so that's sustained, and I'll strike it. Go ahead and ask a question, Mr. Jackson.
You were upset by April of 2023 that there was public outrage about your family being involved in the death of John O'Keefe. That's what you were upset about, correct?
I was upset that we as witnesses were being harassed.
You were upset about public outrage concerning this case, correct?
Objection.
Sustained, that was answered. Next question.
And 2 months later, in June of 2023, for the first time, you testified at another proceeding, and lo and behold, you attributed the words, I hit it, to my client, right?
Objection.
So ask that without the objectionable phrase.
2 months later, at another proceeding, in June of 2023, you attributed the statement, I hit him, to my client for the first time under oath, correct?
Under oath, correct.
You indicated when you turned your phone in, the police were perfectly okay with you deleting communications with your children, correct?
Correct.
Including Allie, who's a material witness in this trial.
Objection.
So part of that is objectionable, and I'll sustain that. So
You're aware that your daughter Allie was a witness in this case.
At the time, I was not aware of that, no.
No, but you did know that ultimately she was going to indicate that she drove Colin home, correct? You knew that at the time.
Objection.
that's sustained.
Did you know at the time that Allie had driven Colin home, or she said she drove him home?
I had no idea she drove him home.
But you deleted all those communications with Allie, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you delete
Been answered, but go ahead. Finish. Let's finish this loop. Did you delete them?
I deleted the conversations with my 4 daughters. At that time, Allie was not a witness.
Okay. All I asked you, you heard my question. Did you or did you not delete your communications with Allie McCabe?
Objection.
That's been answered.
You said that there was this statement that horrified you, your words, horrified you, that Carrie Roberts made during her interview that you were eavesdropping on, right?
I'm not sure if she made it during that interview. I'd have to look back to see when I said she told them everything in bold, because I know she had said it to me multiple times. So I'm not sure if it's when she said it in the interview or just in general. When she said, I told them everything, I told them, etc.
So when you said in that group chat, she's telling them everything, that might not even be what you're talking about.
No, it was.
And you said that horrified you, correct?
I didn't know Carrie Roberts, so yes, her statement horrified me.
Horrified you.
Yes, that was horrifying.
And in that group chat, your response to that horrifying statement was 3 words. I love it.
Was there a response prior to that?
You tell me, ma'am. I'm not the one under oath. You are.
Well, if you want to show me it again, I'd love to get.
Yesterday.
So, do you have it handy, Mr. Jackson?
I don't, Your Honor. I'll grab it. Okay. Your Honor, it's been marked and entered. It was the packet this morning that I did. That's it. May I approach?
Sure.
This is what they call a very hostile witness. She's very combatant against the defense lawyer. When she get pushed in a corner, she gets angry, and she's been doing that continuously since she's been given evidence. She's got lots more to come. She's got lots to hide. Also, that phone call at 2:27 a.m. in the morning. Everyone's waiting to hear how she's gonna try to wriggle out of that. If you've just joined us, welcome to Crime Vlog Weekly. The crime of the century is on the way. That's Alan Jackson questioning Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe, sister-in-law of one of the policemen in question here.
Take a look at those 2 pages.
Could you tell me what pages, please?
169 and the second page, Mr. Cade, if you wouldn't mind.
What's the second number, Mr. Cade?
Number, the bottom right.
2170.
Thank you.
You have that in mind?
Yes, I do.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. During that conversation, when you said she's telling them everything, that came right on the heels of your husband saying, this girl could write a book, or this woman could write a book, or something like that, correct?
Correct. She talks nonstop.
Right. And then you said, 2 texts down, she's telling them everything.
Correct.
The text just before that was, I love it.
That was in response to my husband saying this girl could write a book.
What's the next thing that you wrote that grew within a second of that?
She is telling them everything.
Right. May I approach the court?
Sure.
Nowhere in that text chain did you say something along the lines of, Oh my goodness, I'm so horrified. Did you?
Those were on phone conversations.
Nowhere in those texts that you just saw did you say the words or write the words, I'm so horrified. Did you?
No, because it was already spoken about.
You were asked on that morning, January 29th, 2022, as you drove to the location and ultimately to 34 Fairview. What ultimately happened? And your testimony was, as you approached, my client was searching frantically for John O'Keefe, correct?
I don't believe I said she was searching frantically for John O'Keefe.
Searching frantically,
She was screaming frantically in the back seat and texting in the back seat.
Was she just sitting there, curled up in the back seat, sucking her thumb, or was she searching out the window?
She was screaming
Right.
between Kerry and I. So I'm not really sure how she saw John over here when her head is up here screaming and then looking down and texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Miss McCabe, to search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that trip was to look for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
No.
Fairview.
The whole point of the trip was to look for John,
At
correct?
34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that it.
She is really getting angry. She do not like the cross by Alan Jackson because she knows she's trying to cover up and it's not working.
If it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was there. She did.
Yes or no? Was that your statement? If she hadn't gotten out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped.
I don't believe it was stated like that. I believe there was a question and I answered.
And the question was, would you have stopped? And your answer was what?
What was the direct question?
Oh my goodness, Miss McCabe. It was 5 minutes ago.
Did he ask, did you see something?
There you go, getting very heated. Jennifer McCarp heating up, shouting back at the defense lawyer. And I think the judge is going to come in now and try to calm it down. But I think he's definitely getting to her heartstrings, as I should say.
You like to change words. I just want to be certain.
So, Mr. Jackson, just keep it to questions, not comments.
You were asked just a second ago by Mr. Lally if Karen Reed hadn't jumped out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All I have.
Okay. All right, Ms. McCabe.
There you go. The temperature got very, 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 very hot there in the courtroom with Jennifer McCarp, and I must say the defense lawyers are doing extremely well. We're still waiting for the strong evidence from the prosecution witnesses that Karen Reed was guilty of this particular murder. Okay, I did also promise you guys some of the comments that's going around on the internet. We've got this one by Marie Melissa, and she says Karen Reed is guilty. Not sure how she knows that, but that's what Marie Melissa is saying. We've also got John Devlin. He says he hasn't even asked Higgins about destroying his phone. Yeah, Higgins is one of the police officers involved who was at the party on the night. And as for those of you who's been following along, this Higgins, yes, he was one of the officers that was drinking before at the bar in Canton before they all went to the after party. They're all buddies, known each other for years and years, and they also worked together, these police officers. He eventually actually destroyed his phone. He actually threw his phone into bins or into the river or something along those lines. That happened on about 2 or 3 different occasions different witnesses. This is why there seems to be such cover up that's going on, because there are two or three different witnesses seem to have deleted their phones or threw their phones away, or the phones have disappeared in this particular case. But this guy, John Devlin, says he hasn't even asked Higgins about destroying his phone. Another person is saying, this is Pete Finn. He's saying that why is the judge seems to be very biased. Why is she objecting and not allowing all the evidence to come into play? I quite agree with that, because I've been watching this case from the day one of the case right through to day 16, 17, and as I said, 99% of the objections has been sustained by this particular judge. The defense is not getting a chance to get all the evidence out that they deserve to get out. So we're not sure why this is happening. Let's see if I can find another comment. Okay, it says here, this is Caroline Girl, says, this is why Higgins was benched, because he's so shady. She's saying benched because I think he's now on desk duties at his police station, or for the federal place where he's working. He's now on bench duty because of this particular case. He hasn't been totally honest, as he should have been. So that's one of the comments that's there. Let's see what else we got. Says Amonti Lando says house gone, dog gone, busted knuckles, cops rehearse. Anyone who still cannot do the maths, of course, because what this Amonti Lando is saying, that the house has now been sold. This is the house where John O'Keefe, the police officer, was found dead. They've sold the house for 50%, well, not 50,000 less than what it was worth to make a quick sale. The dog is also gone. If you don't know about the dog, the right arm of John O'Keefe, the police officer who died, he had bruises and scratches on his right arm. That dog has now been given away. And also one of the people in the house says he's got busted knuckles, so he was up to something. Yet we don't know what it is. Basically, he's saying if you do the maths, you can see that Karen Reed is totally innocent. We don't fully know that yet, because still a lot more witnesses to come forward and lots more testimony. And maybe there's a bombshell hiding away there by the prosecution that we haven't seen as yet. Yes, because there is lots more witnesses to come, and maybe they're holding something back for the last minute. But so far, the prosecution is looking extremely good. Okay, what have we got here? Okay, yeah, I was trying to say if I can give you guys some of the comments that slurring around. Says let's see if there's anything else interesting. While we are at it, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the like button, and please share our videos. We do have approximately, I think, somewhere around there 400 videos in our library, so do check it out and leave some comments. Thank you. Okay, right, let's get on to another witness. This is Higgins, another very important witness. This one actually got rid of his phone so that they can't actually find certain evidence. He held back what he wanted to hold back that would possibly make Karen Reid guilty of the fact, but the lawyers found out this information, and they're gonna give him a right roasting, as you'll see.
Then you went to bed?
Was either on the couch or in the bed watching the news.
In any of the prior testimony that you've given in this case, have you ever indicated, ever, that you slept on the couch that night?
I don't know.
Well, you reviewed your testimony before you
Well,
testified.
those would be the two options.
Okay. I didn't ask you about your options. I asked you if you reviewed your testimony before you testified today.
Yes.
Okay. When you reviewed your testimony previous to coming in here today, did you ever testify that you slept on the couch that night?
No, I slept in my bed, but I could have started somewhere else.
Did you ever testify in the previous hearing that you started somewhere else?
Not that I know.
Did you ever mention a couch in any of your description about what you did when you went home that night?
Not that I recall.
As a matter of fact, what you did mention under questioning in a different hearing was that you may have gotten something to eat, you then went to bed, put your stuff on the nightstand next to your bed, correct?
That would be the routine, yes.
You did not make or receive any calls after returning home that night.
No.
You were clear when you went to sleep in your prior testimony that you put both your work and your personal phone. You had two at the time, correct?
Yes.
A personal and a work cell phone, right?
Yes.
You put them both on your bedside table because that's what you do every night. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
As a matter of fact, you were asked whether or not you have a charging station, and you said, "Yeah, it's right on my bedside."
I don't know that I don't have a charging station.
Right, you said no, bedside. In other words, you keep your phone by your bedside, on your bedside table.
Usually.
You also testified that you did not use your phone that night to go on social media, correct?
That's correct.
You indicated that you don't go on, you didn't go on social media because you don't have social media. You don't use it that much.
I don't.
You said, I don't have the gram. I'm guessing that means Instagram, correct?
That is correct.
And you don't use Snapchat, and you, quote, don't do those things, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so you testified that the first call you received after returning home on the 29th was a call from Chief Berkowitz just before 7 a.m., which woke you up. Is that right?
It was around 6:30ish, I think.
Okay. Your testimony previously was at some point before 7 a.m., that call was the one that woke you up.
Yes.
And it turns out, Mr. Higgins, that was a lie, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't a lie.
When you were asked that question at a previous hearing, you didn't know that the person questioning you had your phone records, did you?
I assume they did.
And you were thereafter confronted with those phone records, correct?
I was asked about them, yes.
And those phone records established that you and Brian Albert actually exchanged not one, but two phone calls at 2:22 a.m. that morning, at a time when you claimed you were in bed asleep, correct?
I have no recollection of any phone calls.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Yeah, what the prosecution is what the defense is getting at is that this officer keeps changing his stories, and the thing is, the defense seem to have a lot of advanced information before these witnesses actually came in, and he gave previous evidence that he came home that night, the night of the 29th, after the after party, and went straight to sleep. And there was no phone calls made. He went straight to sleep. Yet still, obviously, the defense were able to get hold of the records, and it's been seen and it's been known that they've got the records of the data, I should say. They've got the phone data that there was phone calls made between him and the homeowner, who's Brian Albert, that night. So far, Brian Albert's claiming he didn't make any calls or he didn't answer any calls. This officer is also claiming the same thing. This is Higgins, Brian Higgins, I think his name is. He's also claiming he went to sleep. Now that the defense was able to prove that there was phone calls, they're saying this was accidental. They were actually sleeping, and at the turnaround, their bum hit the iPhones. 'Cause both of them have iPhones, and the iPhones dialed out, and no one answered. But listen into the cross question and see what you think. Drop a comment. Let me know what do you think.
Take a look at those two documents and tell me if you recognize at least the top one.
Do they have a page number for me to follow or no?
I was just asking Ms. Little, I don't think we've introduced them, and no, they don't have a page number, but I'm gonna ask that they be marked for identification at least at this point. So I can't mark them. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
These are, you know what, I'm gonna, if it's okay with the court, maybe witness maintain those documents?
Sure.
I'd like to have those two documents marked only for identification with the court's permission.
Okay. As one exhibit?
We can do it as one exhibit, that's fine.
Okay. Could you please send those to Madam Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sorry, is it?
This officer is sweating. He's sweating. Many times it's not good to lie.
Mr. Higgins, you see the document on the lower right, it has a page number or there's a numeric indicator 01770. In other words, 1770
On the lower right-hand corner?
in the right, in the red.
It says 01771.
Look at the next page. I think they're just out of order.
Why don't you come show
Am I
me?
missing something?
Oh, this has been marked over. Sorry, it's okay, it's okay. I'll use the one with QQ and the one with 1771, because the other numbers.
When you're referencing them. When you're referencing them?
When I'm referencing them.
Okay.
Take a look at the one that's marked with the QQ.
I see it.
You've certainly seen that document before, correct?
I think I've seen it maybe on a screen, not in my hand.
That was these were the records that were shown to you at a prior hearing.
Yes.
And you acknowledge that at least the one marked QQ is a record of your calls, correct?
It has my name, my telephone number, correct?
And it indicates that on January 29th, 2022, at 2:22 and 35 seconds, you received a call from Brian Albert, duration of 1 second, correct?
Yes.
In other words, Brian Albert called you at 2:22 and 35 seconds, but it looks like you missed the call, correct?
I see the 1 second call, yes.
There's a second call just below that. On the same date at 2:22 and 52 seconds from you to Brian Albert. Do you see that one?
Yes.
And the duration of that call is 22 seconds, correct?
I see that, yes.
So 17 seconds after you missed a call, according to these records, from Brian Albert, you called him back, and there was a call lasting 22 seconds. Is that right?
That's what the records say.
May I approach?
Yes.
He now have to fight his way out of this because he's being caught out. I don't think he realized that the defense had this information because I mentioned earlier he destroyed his phone. He threw his phone his way. He was hoping that this evidence would not be able to get hold of because he has since changed his phone number and he's got a new phone. But that's why you do have to be straight. Tell it as it is. Definitely looking worried. And he's been a cop for well over 30
So the
years.
fact is, you were speaking to Brian Albert in the middle of the night, approximately 3 hours before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in his yard, correct?
No, that's not correct.
And that was 5 minutes before 2:27 a.m. when there was a Google search for how long to die in the cold, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then, of course, you lied about that under oath in that prior proceeding by saying, I don't remember this phone call.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did
There you go, the judge again, not letting certain information come in. I think the jury needs to hear everything because, there's someone's life at stake here. Woman's life at stake. She's going to get 50 years if found guilty. There's some sort of cover up going on in that house between 10 in the morning of the 29th, January 2022, and 2 o'clock in the morning. And there seemed to be some sort of conspiracy that went on up to 2:30 in the morning, and again later in the morning between 6 and the rest of the day. This judge seems to be holding too much information away from the jury. So they definitely need to get on with it.
you, in fact, tell the truth at the prior proceeding when you said, I don't remember that phone call?
I always tell the truth.
Did you lie under oath, sir?
No, I did not.
Would you tell us if you did?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that there's a 22-second phone call in your phone records, correct?
That's what's reflected by the record.
And 22 seconds is quite an amount of time. Would you agree?
It's 22 seconds.
As a matter of fact, it's about this long, with the court's permission.
The court does not give permission. That's argument, Mr. Jackson.
If we were to count off 22 seconds, that's an uncomfortably long time, is it not?
No,
It's long enough to have a conversation, isn't it?
I didn't have a conversation.
Is 22 seconds long enough to have a conversation?
No.
A human being can't have a conversation in 22 seconds?
Sure they could. I don't think it's anything of substance.
Okay, so that's my question. Is it 22 seconds long enough to have a conversation?
I don't agree with it, no.
Now, when you were asked about this, and you were shown these records, that prior hearing, you had an explanation for what that 22-second call may have been, and what the prior call may have been, correct?
Yes.
What was your explanation?
Well, I used a phrase that people commonly use as a butt dial.
So you think it's possible that you may have butt dialed?
There you go. This is the butt dial that is quite a talk about across the internet. Lots of people are wondering how can butt dials happen not one time, not two times, not three, at least 6 times, because he claims butt dial happened and the person who called him and vice versa also claim butt dials. Most phones either have a 4-digit passcode or a 6-digit passcode, and it's impossible for your butt to bypass these passcodes. I know some phones can actually visualize your face and open your phones, but it's not going to happen on the butt. So he's got some explaining to do.
Brian Albert, for a 22-second call that you're not aware of?
I think it's possible that he could have been inadvertently called back, but I have no recollection of that, nor did I have any conversation with anybody.
But you admitted that you lived alone, correct, Mr. Higgins?
That's correct.
You have an iPhone at the time.
Yes.
Matter of fact, that number reflecting those records is in fact, or was in fact, an iPhone. Is that right?
Yes.
You already indicated under oath that you don't sleep with your iPhone. You keep it on your bedside table. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
There's nobody else in your room. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you had your ringer on because you were awakened the next morning by a call from Chief Berkowitz, right?
Yes, the ringer was on.
When somebody calls you and you miss the call, there's a notification that shows up on that iPhone. Is that right?
I don't know how mine's set up at the time. I don't know.
And if you open up your phone app and you go to recents, it shows all the missed calls, correct?
I think you can get to them, yes.
And you know that the iPhone does not automatically call people back. That is not a thing, right? You miss a call from someone, it's not just going to automatically re-ring them.
Yes, I think we both know that, yes.
So to call somebody back, you have to go on your iPhone, open it up from a locked position, navigate to a phone application, then navigate to a contact, and then make a call, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can break it down.
Sure. In order to call somebody back, if you've missed a call, you first have to unlock your iPhone.
You would have to, yes.
You can do that either through Face ID or through a 4 or 6-digit passcode, right?
Yes.
Don't tell me the code, but did you have a 4 or a 6-digit passcode locking your iPhone at the time?
I don't know if it was a digit code or Face ID.
Well, if you have a Face ID, you have to have a digit code as well, right?
I guess so.
Okay. Did you open your phone with your Face ID or a multi-digit code?
I have no recollection of answering the phone or calling anybody back.
You also have to navigate, once the phone is unlocked, you have to navigate to the phone app, correct?
I don't know necessarily if you unlocked it with your face, if it would be right there. I've never thought about it.
Once you unlock that phone app, you have to manipulate the phone on the screen with your finger in order to make a call, correct?
You would have to hit at least one button, I guess.
At least one, right?
Yes.
So that's 3 or 4 interactions with the phone that have to be physically undertaken to just make one call, right?
But I didn't make any calls.
So how'd you butt dial?
I didn't make any calls. I have no recollection of any calls, nor did I speak with anybody.
That's Karen Reed looking very intense, watching this witness, Brian Higgins. Just to let you know, this Brian Higgins had also fancied Karen Reed and made a few. They had a few exchanges on texts where he was showing his interests. That's all part of the evidence within this particular case, or should I say, murder trial of the century, with the prosecution not showing us as yet any evidence of Karen Reed attempting or trying or doing things that makes it looks like she should be sitting there in court being charged with murder. Strange case.
After you were shown these phone records at that prior hearing, in that hearing at least, you finally admitted that you did in fact call Brian Albert back, but this time you claimed the two of you just sort of sat in silence. Isn't that right?
Objection.
So I'm going to sustain it in that form. You can ask it appropriately, Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever previously testify that you did in fact make the call, but you did not have a conversation during the course of the call?
What I think I testified was something must have happened, but I didn't have any phone call.
Do you remember being asked, quote, did you call him back, end quote, and you answered, yes. And then there was a question.
There was a series of questions there. That's only a fragment of what I said.
I'm not done yet, Mr. Higgins. Can you answer my question?
Yes.
To the question, did you call him back? Your answer was yes, correct?
I think it was kind of I must have.
Then you were asked, well, the answer was yes, and then there was a colloquy back and forth where you spoke over each other's words, right?
There was dialogue back and forth about this whole thing, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
The heat is definitely getting to this gentleman.
May I?
Yes.
Brian Higgins.
You see the pink highlighted question and the pink highlighted answer.
Yes.
What's the question? Please read it for me.
Did you call him back?
What's the answer?
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
You then said a little bit further in that same conversation, I did not have a conversation, correct?
I did not have a conversation with anybody.
And the question following that was, you just listened to the phone, what someone was telling you? Answer, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything. And then I terminated the call, end quote. That's what you said at the other hearing under oath, correct? Yes or no?
Can I see it?
Sure.
Lying under oath is definitely an offense. He's going to be in trouble, more trouble than he is already.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Mr. Lowen? Same page.
I hope you guys are going to be dropping some comments. What do you think is going on? What do you think about this particular officer? They're trying to put this lady, Karen Reed, in jail for 50 plus years. And it seems like there's definitely some sort of collusion among all these officers in that house on that night. As I said, there were 11 to 12 people in there. I think there were a couple of them were kids or teenagers or so, but the rest of them were adults, but all family and friends of the police officers. And there is, as I said, something between midnight and 2:30 in the morning. There seemed to be a lot of phone calls and lying and trying to get their stories straight days and months after, and still going on.
Thank you.
The bottom portion in pink. If you could read that answer to yourself, please.
This defense lawyer's definitely got.
You have that in mind, sir?
He's
No,
definitely.
can I have a minute, please?
He's definitely got it together, and I think this officer here, he's buying for time. He needs to get his answers together.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pressure, pressure, pressure.
Does that refresh your recollection about how you answered that question?
Yes.
And your answer was, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything. And then I terminated the call. That's the only thing.
Meaning it's possible it could have happened.
It's possible it could have happened that you had a 22-second call with Brian Albert,
I
correct?
did not have a 22-second call with Brian Albert. There was no conversation.
You've had some time to think about this 2:22 a.m. call, correct? Since that last testimony.
Some time to think about it?
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about it, no.
So for over a year, you haven't even considered the fact that you were caught with a phone record lying about not having a conversation with Brian Albert at 2:22 in the morning.
Objection.
He's definitely getting annoyed. He doesn't like it.
Mr. Higgins, what was so important that you and Brian Albert needed to discuss something at 2:22 in the morning?
There was no discussion. I never talked to Brian Albert.
Then why the 22-second phone call, sir?
Objection.
Sustained.
He's not answering.
I want to talk about what you did after you woke up on January 29th, 2022. That was obviously a memorable day in your mind, correct?
It was a sad day.
The very first person you spoke to after waking up was who?
Well, I believe I said I got the call from Chief
That's
Berkowitz.
not my question.
Say that again?
Who's the first person you spoke to on the phone that morning when you woke up?
Brian Albert.
Whose idea was it for you to drive to Brian Albert's house that morning?
It was my idea.
Was it important to you to speak with Brian Albert in person rather than over text or phone call?
No, it was important to support the people that were there.
So of course you drove over to his house and had an opportunity to speak to him in person without any law enforcement presence, correct?
I was there with everybody, not just Brian Albert.
And Brian Albert was in the house and you were in the house, right?
That's correct.
So you had access to him and others without any law enforcement there. Is that right?
That's correct.
As soon as you got off the phone with Brian Albert that morning, who did you call? At 7:22 a.m., if you recall.
I think I might have called Chief Berkowitz back.
So as soon as you got off the phone with Brian Albert, first thing in the morning, the next call you made was to Chief Berkowitz. Is that right?
Yes, because he had called me first. Yes, I called him back.
Yeah, Chief Berkowitz, he's officer at the Canton Police headquarters. They're very good friends, very close friends, colleagues, drinking partners, everything. So, yes, there were early morning phone calls, and obviously, as I said, it looks like between him and Brian Albert, they had to get their story together. And because this gentleman, Higgins and Berkowitz, is good friends, they had to make arrangements, it seems like, to help to make the story right.
Did you request from Chief Berkowitz any information that he may have had concerning the investigation surrounding John O'Keefe being found at 34th Fairview that morning?
No.
Were you trying to see how much law enforcement knew right away?
Absolutely. I didn't even know what happened.
Were you trying to gather information about what happened so that you would know what happened?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that
No.
what you were trying to do?
No, Your Honor.
What did Chief Berkowitz tell you about his knowledge of John O'Keefe's body being found just after 6 a.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had been with John O'Keefe and you were at the crime scene the night before?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask that differently.
Did you inform Chief Berkowitz that you had been with John O'Keefe the night before?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I believe I may have told him at some point that I saw John at the waterfall.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you'd been at 34 Fairview?
I believe I did.
Did you tell him that your vehicle was parked just feet away from where John's body was discovered?
No, because I didn't know where he was discovered.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you and Brian Albert had had a call at 2:22 in the morning?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had been flirting with John O'Keefe's girlfriend in the weeks prior to his death?
No.
Did you ever tell Chief Berkowitz about the nature of your interest in Miss Reed?
No, I don't believe so.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had seen Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed the night before and that Miss Reed had ignored you?
Objection.
Sustained. You can break that down, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may have just a moment.
I'm sure this officer wish he wasn't there. Just too much information coming out about him. It's definitely not looking good for him, not looking good for the prosecution. Definitely the defense is on their toes, and they're looking extremely good at present.
You indicated just a second ago that when I asked, did you tell Chief Berkowitz that your Jeep was parked just feet away from where John O'Keefe's body was found, you said, I had no idea where John O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
That's correct.
You had just spoken with Brian Albert, right?
He said in front of the house.
All he said was, John O'Keefe was found in front of the house. He didn't say, right outside on my front lawn.
I believe he said he was found out in front of his house, unresponsive.
Okay. If he was out in front of his house, then you would know, because your Jeep was also parked out in front of his house, that your Jeep would just be feet away from him, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell Chief Berkowitz that you had texted John O'Keefe to have him come over to 34 Fairview just hours before he was discovered dead in the yard?
No.
Did you think any of that was important when talking to the Chief of Police of the Canton Police Department?
I'll let him have it.
No, I didn't. There was no reason to tell him.
You've been an investigator for some 15 years and you were a firefighter for years before that, correct?
Yes.
You're very familiar with some of the tools that are used in conducting modern investigations, correct?
Yes.
You'd agree that searching electronic devices and phones is an incredibly important investigative tool that modern investigators use, correct?
Objection.
In that form, I'll sustain it.
Are you aware that searching electronic devices is an important part of investigations?
Objection.
Are you aware of that, sir? Do you agree with that?
I've utilized phone data during the course of my investigations at times, yes.
Okay, so another way to put that is obviously phone data and electronic data is an important part of investigation.
Objection.
Sustain.
What time do you believe you got to Brian Albert's house that morning when after you received the phone calls and woke up? What time did you make your way back over to Brian Albert's house?
Maybe around 7:15 in that area.
Was there any law enforcement presence there when you arrived?
I can't recall specifically. There could have been one police car. I'm not positive.
Did any officer ever ask you to take a look at your vehicle?
At what time?
That time. But actually at any time.
No, not to my knowledge, nobody from law enforcement associated with the investigation had ever asked.
Yeah, what where the defense is going on this two avenues is really there seemed to be no serious investigation of the witnesses that was in the house. There was conversations, no notes was taken on the early morning. Also, this, as I said earlier, this police officer used his friend in the police department to use FBI equipment, which he shouldn't have used. And this is, he seemed to be under investigation also separately from this case for his part within this case. He got involved into something he should not have been involved in. Yes, no problem going to the after party, but he did seem to wrap himself up in the investigation and communicating with Brian Albert and trying to get information of what the case was, more information about the case.
Asked to take a look at my vehicle.
So they certainly didn't ask that day, correct? On the 20.
What I'm saying is, to my knowledge, nobody has ever asked me that.
Right. So that's my point. I'm just trying to break it down.
You're breaking. You want to tell me every instance when somebody could have asked me?
Correct.
Okay.
On the 29th, were you asked whether or not your vehicle could be searched?
Searched or inspected? What do you mean?
Either one.
Well, I would consider a search the inside of the vehicle more so than the outside. I would consider the outside more of an inspection. I would have been happy to show them it.
I'm sure you would have. I'm asking, did they ask?
No.
They didn't have to search it. They didn't have to inspect it.
No.
When you met with troopers, who was it that you met with on the 3rd of February?
Trooper Proctor and Trooper Buchanan.
Did either Trooper Proctor or Trooper Buchanan ask to inspect your vehicle, otherwise search it?
Not to my recollection.
And to this day, nobody from Massachusetts State Police has ever indicated that they want to inspect your vehicle.
No.
When you entered the house that morning, Brian Albert was there, Nicole Albert, Jim McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert Jr., and Julie Albert were all there. I'm sorry, had Julie Albert gotten there yet?
She came after me.
Okay, so at some point, all the people that I just ticked off, they were all inside the house.
Brian
right?
Albert Jr., Nicole, Brian, Matt, and Jen.
You all discussed the incident together, correct?
I wouldn't describe it that way, no.
Did each of you discuss your own perspectives about what had happened the night before in the early morning hours?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
People were in shock at the table trying to figure out what happened. The math didn't make sense. John and the defendant never showed up. People were in shock.
Trying to figure out what to say, right?
No.
And you were all talking within earshot of each other, right?
We were all there in the kitchen talking together.
At this meeting, and these were friends and family, correct?
Excuse me?
These were friends and family amongst themselves, and you being a friend. These were friends and family inside that house discussing this incident, correct?
Yes.
So at this meeting, you actually instructed Jennifer McCabe to call Canton PD and ask someone to come back.
Objection.
Sustained as to that form, you can ask it differently.
At some point, did an officer come back to re-interview Jen McCabe?
Yes.
Jen McCabe had told you that she had information about something that Miss Reed had said, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did she tell you that morning?
She didn't specifically tell me anything. She made a statement at the table to the group of people that, and she clearly seemed like she was in shock. She was upset. And she made a statement, something to the effect that Karen had opined that she had hit John.
What she actually said was, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
Objection.
It's not what I heard. No.
That'll stand.
Who did you ever tell this to?
I've reported that.
That she said, I hit him?
Yes, I've reported it.
What you reported was she said, Karen said, I hope I didn't hit him, and you said, oh, you need to tell Canton PD that. Isn't that right?
No, I don't think that's what I said. No.
You're as sure about that as you are about that 222 call, right?
Objection.
Mr. Higgins, what time did you leave Brian Albert's house?
It would have been, I believe, when Sergeant Lank arrived, and I think Lieutenant Gallagher might have been with him.
You weren't scheduled to work that Saturday, correct?
No.
Matter of fact, you weren't on duty at all.
No, I wasn't.
But you didn't go home and get some sleep or run errands. You went directly to Canton PD from 34 Fairview yet again, didn't you?
Who could sleep after somebody just was discovered like that?
Did you go home? Or did you?
I don't believe I did, no. I believe there might have been a stop at Canton PD before I went home.
As a matter of fact, you didn't just stop at Canton PD. You spent the entire day at Canton PD on the 29th, didn't you?
I don't know that I spent the entire day there, no.
Well, you've got a key card, right?
I do have a key card.
And that key card logs swipes.
That's correct.
So it logs where you go, access to, and access inside the
Yes.
Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
When you got to Canton PD, and you're telling the story, you don't know how long you spent there.
I don't know how long I spent there. I don't know if I left and I came back. I don't recall.
So if the records indicate that you were there from 9 a.m.-ish, after 5,
I don't know how the records would indicate that.
I don't think he realized that the defense is going to be leading up to him being there all day, no matter how he tried to wriggle out of him being there with the key cards and whatnot. He was there all day, and apparently one of the officers actually brought to the Kenton police station Karen Reed's car, and when Karen Reed's car entered the premises, it is believed that her tail light was okay, her red tail light was okay. For some reason, the CCTV did not show when the car entered. In actual fact, it seemed to have stopped for about 20 minutes. So right now, there's 20 minutes of CCTV missing. Hours later, one of the police officers were able to find 40 pieces of red taillight back at the home of Brian Albert, which looks like Karen Reed did run over her boyfriend and shattered her light then. On the day when the police ambulance and the emergency services was there, no one found these 40 pieces. You could say, well, yes, the snow, the thing, but this was days after they found all these pieces of tail light. So Lots of questions to be asked there. Lots of cover up went on.
I'll show you in a second.
Okay.
This officer is very worried because it's all
While you were at
catching up.
Canton PD, did you speak again to Brian Albert?
I don't remember.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak again to Chief Berkowitz?
Most likely.
While you were at Canton PD, did you speak with Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert?
I don't believe so.
He's looking, yes. He's got receipts, he's got evidence. It's always good to tell the truth. It's not going to be ending good for this this police officer. Definitely not.
Your Honor, may I approach briefly? Yeah, this particular area, but I just want to see if you recognize. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a 167-page document. Just you can glance, obviously don't read the whole thing, just glance through it and tell me if you recognize what that is.
I think that's all the login, log out details from the Canton police station.
So it says Canton Police, all events logged by date.
So don't read it out loud, please.
sorry,
Just do you recognize
Yes, I do.
it?
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
This appears to be a log of police swipes in and around Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
And it's in reverse chronological order, in other words.
I didn't note that, but okay.
Okay. You acknowledge that that is a record of the key swipes that everybody uses moving in and around Canton PD, going through doors, every place that needs a key swipe is logged.
I would assume that's what that is, yes.
All right. It shows that you entered Canton PD for the first time on the 29th at 1:27 a.m. Does that sound about right? When you got there, you said to move your cars.
It's possible.
All right. It shows that you were granted access to floor corridor 227. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
What about floor corridor 226 on the second floor?
Second floor would make sense because I went in the building and then to the second floor.
He's wondering what's happening, what's going to come next. Definitely some nail biting stuff there.
By the way, did Brian Albert ever mention what time the officers cleared the scene?
No.
Without telling you the substance of the conversation, did he tell you when he talked to you at 7:20 or?
Not that I recall, no.
But you remember by the time you got there, the scene had basically been cleared. There wasn't a bunch of emergency vehicles, crime scene tape, nothing like that.
I didn't see fire trucks. I might have saw a cruiser. I can't be sure. I don't recall.
You're not sure about that either.
Sorry, I'm
Not
not
sure about even seeing a cruiser, correct?
not 100%, no.
You certainly were not contacted by a law enforcement officer who took your name and ID or anything like that.
No.
Parked and walked in the house.
Yes.
That was a very smart question there. He knows the reason why he asked that question because the crime scene was left open. I think everyone went away. There was no tape. Anyone was able to go in and out of the house, walk onto the driveway, whatever, because the crime scene wasn't kept cleared. Apparently, from what I understand, most crime scenes are either kept for 24 hours or sometimes 7 days or 14 days, whatever, however long it takes to try to solve and collect all the evidence. apparently this wasn't done. So it seems like I think he's trying to point out there was sloppy police investigation, and there was no reason. The police found that there was no reason for them to secure the area.
Your Honor, may I approach one more time?
Yes.
Same thing. I'd like to have that document marked as next in order, base pages. It represents base pages 2850 to 3016.
All right, so marked for identification. Is there an agreement this is coming in, Mr. Lally?
There is not, no.
All right, so that's marked for identification, not next in order.
Very uncomfortable officer.
Thank you.
Looks like the cops is on trial here.
I'm sorry. Are we ready? Thank you. May I proceed?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, if you'll look at Bates page 3015, which actually is in order, that's not reverse chronologically, it's the second to the last page.
I have it.
One quick second. Can you take a look at the 8th entry from the bottom?
I see it.
Does that indicate that this all occurred on 1/29/22? This entry at least?
Well, I mean, I only, on that 8th entry, I see that that's associated with my name. I don't know what the other ones are associated with.
Right. It would be other individuals in Canton PD. I mean, this is the entire log for 129, right?
Okay, but what all I'm saying is that just my name is next to that. I don't see any other names, so,
Right.
okay.
So on 1/29/2022, I'm just trying to orient you. At 127 and 52 seconds,
I see it.
access granted Brian Higgins, rear entry to secure corridor, rear entry to secure corridor, correct?
Yes,
All right, so that appears to be what the log entry or the key swipe entry looks like when it's logged, correct?
yes.
If you look at page 2967, I'm sorry, I said it backwards, 2976.
Okay.
Take a look at.
You said
time-
2976?
That's Bates page 2976. At the bottom right-hand.
I see it, yes.
Look at the time entry for 9:23 and 39 seconds.
Nine 23 and what?
39.
And that's on 2976?
Should be.
Give me the time again, please.
Why don't we do it this way? May I approach?
Yes.
This is an exact copy.
Yeah, this time's all over the place. My apologies. Okay, all right, thank you.
At 9:23:39. I'm sorry. You got that in mind?
I do, I see it. It's highlighted.
At 9:23:39, that shows that you were granted access to the Sallyport to front exit, front entry to Sallyport. Correct?
Yes,
There's only one Sallyport at Canton PD. Correct?
yes, and there's a door on each side of the Sally Port.
Two
Yes,
bay doors, right?
2 bay doors on each side,
And then
yes.
there's a
Pass through,
personal pass-through door as well.
yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to try to speed this up just a bit because it's small print, reverse chronological order. On page 2976, there's also an entry, same page, should be right above that, 92350, showing that you were granted access from booking to Sallyport as well, correct?
Okay, 2976, and what was the
Same
time?
page.
Yes.
It's about maybe 6 entries above, 6 entries up. You'll look for time 9:23 and 50 seconds.
I see. Yes.
All right, and that shows that you were granted access to the Sallyport, and then from Sallyport to booking, correct?
Since booking to Sallyport, Sallyport to booking.
Okay, so that's a key swipe. You either enter into the Sallyport from booking or from booking into the Sallyport.
Yes.
Could you repeat the question? Of course, of course.
Very, very busy there.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
That indicate, I have no idea what the last question was. I'll see if I can make a new one up. At 9:23 and 50 seconds in the morning, you were granted access booking to Sallyport and Sallyport to booking, meaning swipe the key card in the door going from booking to Sallyport.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to belabor this because we could get bogged down into it all day long. Would you have any quarrel if those logs indicated that you were moving in and around Canton PD at 9:28, 9:53, 9:53, 9:54, 9:54, 11:40, etc.? We can look at every one of them if you want to.
Well,
That doesn't refresh your recollection.
it would not be uncommon for me to move around Canton PD at various times or dates,
Right.
middle of the night, during the day. But just because I swiped in somewhere and then you have a swipe at the end of the day doesn't mean I was there the whole day. I could have left, I could have come back, and I truly don't have a recollection, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't there all day.
Fair enough. If we moved from 11:40 to 11:44, 11:45, 11:47, 11:51, 11:52, and then jump to 2:05, would that be an explanation where you might have gone out for lunch, 11:52?
Could have.
Okay, come back. If
Yes.
there's
Okay, we're gonna push it on a little bit just because this is getting a bit long-winded, and I'm sure the jury's also finding it a little bit like that. Basically, what they're getting to is that as I said earlier, the Karen Reed car, he was there at the same time his friend brought in the vehicle for the Karen Reed inspecting us, searching and inspecting her car. He was there at the time. As I said, 15 to 20 minutes of the video disappeared between him and the other officer that was there on that afternoon. So basically the defense is showing that he was there when the car arrived with the evidence, as they claim this is the evidence of the car that caused the death, and somehow they're not even able to find the tape, the video, the CCTV. 20 minutes of it has gone missing, and now they've got shattered rare red glass from the back of Karen Reed's SUV somehow ended up back at Brian Brian's Brian Albert's home. Again, it seemed to be something is going on. We're not sure what's going on. I'm sure we're going to get there.
I mean, there was a lot going on that day. People were upset. And I don't remember the phone calls. I don't deny making the phone calls. I just don't remember them.
Do you remember providing information that you were learning from Kevin Albert to Brian Albert?
Absolutely not.
And then may I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Same record.
I think we're coming to the crucial
Just
bit.
below those phone calls to Kevin Albert and Brian Albert, there's 2 additional phone calls that you had with Chief Berkowitz and then Brian Albert again, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, it looks an awful lot like you're gleaning information from Canton PD. Were you doing that?
Objection.
So I sustain the objection in that form. You can ask one part of that question.
Sure. Were you getting any information from Canton PD?
No, I wasn't.
Did you provide any information to Brian Albert
No, I did not.
based on any conversations or conduct at Canton PD?
No.
May I approach?
Yes.
But you were, in fact, on the phone with all of those interested parties throughout the day, you'll agree.
I was.
Answer that.
Okay.
There's
Yes,
no
Your Honor.
objection. You can answer it.
Yes, they're friends, and I was on the phone with them. Yes.
And sir, you were not on duty that day, correct?
No,
You are not a Canton police officer, correct?
that's correct.
You are not assigned to this investigation in any formal capacity, were you?
I was not.
As a matter of fact, you're a witness in a homicide investigation. That's your only role in this, correct?
That's correct, but they're still my friends.
And
Yes.
yet you're still having conversations with Kevin Albert at Canton PD while you're at Canton PD, correct?
Not about this.
And you're having conversations with Chief Berkowitz of Canton PD while you're at Canton PD, correct?
I had conversations with them, but not about this.
And
No.
you're consistently through the day calling Brian Albert, aren't you?
I had conversations with Brian Albert. John was found on his lawn. Yes, of course I had phone conversations with him.
I want to take you back for a second to a couple of other entries, including one at 357, one at 358, and one at 407. I'm going to draw your attention to 2885 and 2886.
The heat is definitely getting to him. We want to get to the crucial point. Let's see if we can get there. I'll just push it a little bit forward.
Or the one
I-
it probably is going to be just below it because it's reversed.
You said 357.54, correct?
Correct.
That's what I just read.
Got it. Look at 6 entries below at 357.36.
357.36. I see it. Access granted. Brian Higgins. Booking to Sallyport. Sallyport to booking.
Then there's one more on page 2885. Are you aware that there was other evidence that was also being held in the Sallyport?
Objection. Sustained.
Did you see any other evidence in the Sallyport related to this case?
No.
Did you see a bag, grocery bag with 6 solo cups there?
Objection.
Did you see anything that seemed out of the ordinary there?
All I would do is use that as a cut through. I did not see anything.
Are you aware that at 5, well, let me ask you this. You and Chief Berkowitz were moving in and through, at least in some parts of
Yeah, what he's trying to get at, there definitely seemed to be some sort of collusion between this police officer and Chief Berkerich. And it's all to do with Karen Reed Carr, because Karen Reed Carr was in the port at the same time Berkerich was there, and this officer was there. And evidence could have been tampered with. That's all I'm going to say. And this is where the defense is going.
Day in and through Canton PD together, correct?
At some points we might have been together. We weren't together all day.
Matter of fact, he was also in the Sally Port around the same time you were, correct?
I don't recall that, no.
But the records would reflect that, correct? The records that are in front of you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Don't know why they're not bringing in all the evidence. They should let the evidence in. It's definitely there. They don't, for some reason, they don't want the jury to hear this evidence. They're trying to keep as much of this collusion type testimony out of this particular case, and the judge seems to be going along with it. So I'm sure the jury is wondering what the hell is happening.
You were in the Sally Port the last time you're logged into the Sally Port. It's 4:07. Do you remember seeing Chief Berkowitz at Sally Port at 4:14?
No, and if that says that I'm logged, that could be me cutting through.
It's all I'm asking you. I'm not asking you what you did. I'm asking you where you were.
I don't know where I was at that specific time.
Well, you walked into the Sally Port. We know that.
If I walked in,
Correct?
cutting through, yes.
Right. Was Chief Berkowitz in the Sally Port at 4:14?
Not that I recall, no.
Was he there at 4:30?
I don't remember ever seeing him in the Sally Port, no.
Was he there at 4:33?
I don't remember ever seeing Chief Berkowitz in the Sally Port.
At 4:50?
Objection.
Sustained. Let's move through this, please.
Finally, was he there at 5:36 and 37 seconds at the same time Karen Reed's vehicle was delivered?
I don't remember.
It's either he don't remember or he doesn't want to answer. He know he was there. He doesn't want to answer.
Do you remember Chief Berkowitz, or were you with Chief Berkowitz when he made a call to the front desk?
No, I don't remember anything like that, no.
Do you remember Chief Berkowitz calling the front desk at 5:42 and saying, "Shut the barracks"?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you remember any kind of call shutting the barracks, meaning shutting the Sally Port?
Objection.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember anything like that, Your Honor.
Okay, next
Not sure why. Why they're not letting this evidence in? The jury needs to hear this.
question.
You didn't leave Canton PD until close to 6 p.m., isn't that right?
I don't know what time I left.
Could it have been 5:50, 6 o'clock?
I don't recall what time I left.
You're aware that there's video surveillance feeds in the Sally Port garage, correct?
That's correct, yes. Around the building.
Were you in the Sally Port at 5:36 when the car was delivered?
I don't have any recollection of that, no.
It's one thing to say I don't remember, it's another thing to say, no, I was not there.
I don't remember being there, no.
Is it possible that you could have been there when that car was delivered?
I don't believe I was, no.
You don't believe you were? Or
I
you
don't
weren't?
believe I was, no.
You're aware that the video surveillance feed from the Sally Port garage at or around 5:36, the precise time when the car was delivered, is missing, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
There you go. That's the evidence has just come in about the Sally Port, somehow the 15 to 20 minutes of the car entering into the Sally Port at the police station has gone missing. They haven't found it as yet. It's disappeared. Somehow the police has lost it. Yet still Karen Reed is up for a murder, and they expect her to go down for 50 years at least. I'm sure the jury is gonna see through all this, what's going on.
Did you receive a flurry of phone calls from Brian Albert and Chief Berkowitz indicating that some taillight pieces or a taillight piece had been recovered at 34 Fairview later that evening?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you receive a call at all, without telling me what the conversation consisted of, around 6:12 p.m. from Brian Albert?
I don't know what day you're referring to.
The 29th.
No, I don't remember any phone calls like that.
Do you remember 3 minutes later getting another call from Chief Berkowitz at 6:16 p.m. that lasted about 5 minutes and 15 seconds?
No.
May I approach?
Yes.
The data evidence is definitely there of the phone calls and the communication. But the crucial thing is the car entered the police station. It looks like evidence was tampered with. It looks that way. This is why the questions are coming up. And it seemed to be a continuous communication with someone that should have been a witness, but seemed to be involved with colluding between another police officer who's in charge of the case. What's going on?
You look at the entries for 6:12, 6:16. See if that refreshes your recollection.
Are you referring to the?
6:12 and 6:16.
Okay, I see those. Yes.
There was a call at 6:12 that Brian Albert made to you for a duration of 1 minute and 7 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Then right after that, there was a call from Chief Berkowitz to you at 6:16 that lasted 5 minutes and 15 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
They telling you that taillight pieces had been found at the location.
Objection.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
Of course, I think look as though there's a little sidebar. They're gonna try to keep more information away from the jury.
Provided information from your friend, Chief Berkowitz, about the progress of the investigation?
No.
Were you providing your friend, Brian Albert, information about the progress of the investigation or what you perceived it to be?
No, I didn't have any information on the investigation.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
He's looking very sad for himself.
You were not interviewed about this case in any formal capacity until 5 days later, correct?
That sounds about right.
February 1st, Trooper Proctor?
I'm not exactly sure the date, but it was several days after. Yes.
I'm sorry, I said February 1st, maybe it's
I don't-
February 3rd.
I don't know the date, but we were into February.
Where did that interview take place?
Sharon, Mass.
I'm sorry?
Sharon, Mass.
At what location?
Sorry.
What location?
Objection.
I'll see counsel very quickly at sidebar.
Crucial bit coming up by the defense. Listen out.
You were successful in getting information off your phone, which is the text that you turn over to the Commonwealth, correct?
Objection.
In that form, you're almost there, Mr. Jackson. That form was improper.
The information that was ultimately pulled off your phone was the information that you selected and you and Matt Kelch worked together to get off your phone, correct?
Objection.
Is that correct?
No, Your Honor, if I could explain.
Sure.
He walked me through on how I could pull the text string with John O'Keefe and the defendant. He walked me through the process, how to use the machine.
And then you did that.
I did do that, that's
And that's
correct.
what you turned over to the police.
That's correct.
And any other information would still be on your phone ending in 5421, correct?
Well, that information stayed on my phone. I just took those strings off and provided them to the Mass State
Right,
Police.
so where's your phone?
I do not have that phone anymore.
You've destroyed that phone, haven't you?
No, I threw the phone away.
Well, that's destroying the phone, isn't it?
I had every right to do that.
I didn't ask you about your rights. I asked you what you did.
Objection.
Sustained.
You destroyed the phone by removing the SIM card. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you do that? Did you pull the SIM card out?
Objection.
Did you pull the SIM card out of your phone?
Your Honor, to the best of my recollection, if I did take the SIM card out, I would have when I threw it away, if I was going to take it out, I would break it or cut it. But I did not wipe the phone. I did not take anything else off it. But if I was going to throw the phone away, that's what I would have done.
Okay.
You know, as an ATF agent with electronic data experience, when you pull the SIM card out and break it, and then throw the phone away and the SIM card away, you don't need to wipe the phone.
Objection.
Sustained. Jackson, that's it.
Your Honor.
Yes, okay. On the heat, I think the judge just about saved him then, but the damage is already done. He destroyed his phone. He took off information that would have helped the case against Karen Reed. The rest of the information which would have made him look bad, and also for the prosecution and for himself. He destroyed the phone, so no one can get hold of that. But luckily they had the telephone number and they were able to get some data to show that there were phone calls made or communications made between other parties. Well, that's it from me. It's been a fantastic, fascinating case there. Crime of the century, Karen Reed murder trial. As I said, we haven't seen anything yet of evidence that shows that Karen Reed has been at fault. We still haven't seen any evidence of that. We're still waiting. Hopefully that's going to come up soon. But as I said, it's a fantastic case. Everyone around the world is currently watching this. And it's been a pleasure bringing you the updated information. I think we're back next week, Tuesday. I think it is on might be the 20, could be the 29th of, could be the 29th, I think it is. We'll be bringing you day 18, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget comments, like, subscribe, of course, that's most important, and the likes. We would love the algorithm to spread all videos here at Crime Vlog Weekly worldwide. We are trying to get up there to at least 50,000 subscribers. Please help us to get there. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you very much. Until the next time, be good. Look after yourself. Thank you very much for joining me on this Karen Reed murder trial. As we said, we call it the crime of the century. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.